Okay, joined here in studio now by Brian Lowry from the Midland Tribune to look back on the games that have been played so far this weekend and also to look forward to the end of Group 1 of the Championship. We'll start with Group 2 maybe, Brian, because an exciting finish to it and very tight margins between Ballycumber and Ferban. Ballycumber had led late on, Ferban got 2 late scores. It sends Ballycumber down and Ferban into the quarters.
Yeah, it was pretty dramatic. It was probably the only dramatic scoreline of the weekend so far. Played in Pulla on Friday night, and Ballycumber, they led at half time. By a point, I think, and they led with 2 points late on. I think Joe Markey 2 late points from frees to get a draw, and a draw was just good enough for Ferban. But if Ballycumber had won that, it would have threw up a three-way playoff for one team to go into the quarterfinals, and the other two teams who wouldn't have come through the three-way playoff would have been relegated. So it would have been a fixtures nightmare. I know the first one of those games had been provisionally set for next Tuesday if there was a three-way playoff. So I think all the other clubs and on the county board would all be happy enough that it didn't go to a three-way playoff, I think, because the last thing they wanted at this time of year is a fixtures pile-up. But Ferban, lucky enough, the road to look against St. Rhinus as well. They got the first win first round against Kilcormac and 2 big beatings off Clara and Road. So they'll go in, they'll probably play Gracefield in a quarter final if the results go as expected tonight. But they'll go in as massive underdogs because 7 points is a very poor return.
Well, St. Rhinus, I'm sure, were very relieved as well because they were handsomely beaten by Clara, and that game was over before half time really as a contest. I'm sure they were relieved to find out it was a draw as well, because they go into that place as the kind of no man's land. They're out of the championship, but they don't drop to Senior B. Had results gone wrong, as you say, it could have been a playoff, or they could have been relegated themselves.
They could have, yeah. I suppose it's a typical jewel club. St. Rhinus going well in the hurling as well. There'll probably be factions of that club that are happy enough with the way it's panned out. They haven't got to a quarter final. The quarter final is probably a bit optimistic going into Friday night's games. I don't think they're ever going to beat Clara. With all due respect to them, Clara are flying it. To be involved in a relegation playoff and going well in the hurling, two contrasting fortunes in the same club, it doesn't really sit well. I think they're finished up for the year. They were steady. They got the win against Ballycumber the first night out. A lot of people maybe thought that was a bit of a shock. They lost Pat Cameron and Joseph O'Connor and Conor Clancy at times to emigration during the summer. They had them 3 players back on Friday night, and they played some decent football in the second half in particular. They really troubled that Clara defence, and just looking at Clara for a second, they're excellent going forward, but I think they have a lot to work on in the back line. They're a young back line. They don't have that. The Joe Quinn and Scott Brady, they're not in the back line. Joe Quinn's not even around at the moment. Scott's in midfield, and they seem a bit porous to me in the defence.
I saw their opening round game. Now I know a lot of time has gone by since May to now, but I would have worried watching them against Road, because Road, as you say, were able to just clean through them, and that's the kind of standard of opposition you're talking about from here on out. They're not going to be able to defend the way they have in this group and win a championship.
No, they haven't been tested since that Road game, to be fair. They played Ferban, they gave Ferban a heavy beating. They bet Kilcormac, Cloughy handsomely. They bet St. Rhinus and Ballycumber. They've pretty much wiped the floor with all of them, and they're going to be tested now in the quarter final. It's like you're looking at maybe like Tullamore that could be facing in the quarter final depending on how games go tonight. So that'll be a massive step up. The county champions, and the one test that was put up to them in the back line this year was against Road early on and failed.
Speaking of Road, they've won this group remarkably easy. They're averaging kind of wins by 20 points. And no one has tested them in the group whatsoever, and they ease through with a 100% record. Now, I'm sure they'll be wary about peaking too early in the year, but there's plenty of signs that they're back toward their best again this year.
Oh, absolutely. They never went away in my eyes, Will. They're masters at this stage. They're seasoned campaigners. There's no fear of them going in undercooked or overcooked. They know what it takes to win it. They know when it takes. They know all the timings, when to come right, when not to be on the boil, to be off the boil. Straight into a semi-final, so they weren't really tested in the group at all, and now they're not going to have a quarter-final either. Or straight into a semi-final, they're going to meet one of the winners of the quarter-final. So it's going to be imperative for them to get decent challenge matches, decent numbers of decent training games. They're going to have to be managed well, but it's Road, and they're still the favourites in my eyes.
The old adage tends to go on Offaly in recent years. You probably have to beat Road to win a championship. And we were talking to Brian Darby here a couple of weeks ago in studio, and he was saying, between league and championship, they've only really lost a handful of games in the last 5 years. They've generally tended to lose either in finals or semi-finals. And once again, they're in the last 4. And I'm sure they're a team that will be massively respected, along with the contenders, of course. But you would think at this stage they're going to be right up there for winning this championship.
Definitely. All you have to do is look down to their team. Like Brian Darby in defence, Alan Mulhall, Alan McNamee and Conor McNamee in the middle of the field, and like Anton, Niall Darby, Niall McNamee, these boys in the forward line, like they're just, the team probably picks itself at this stage over in Road, even though there is a bit of competition. But they probably haven't got the aura about them as they had in previous years, but they're still, in my eyes, the number one team in Offaly. But they're not going to get it handed to them either. The likes of Eton Derry, who are powering along nicely, Gracefield are making waves in the other group, and Clara won't let that happen again. What happened to them in the first round if they come up against Road again? Clara, saw Tullamore last year. Tullamore got hockeyed by Road in the opening round last year and came back and won a title. So Clara can take a bit of solace from that as well, to know that they can bounce back.
Well, Eden Derry, looking forward to tonight. I've seen them a couple of times this year. They have a very interesting team. It's maybe balanced compared to some of the rest of the teams. They've got good players kind of running through the team. You would imagine they're going to be the second semi-finalists. They go into a very strong position tonight. They've got 7 points on the board. You would think, playing against a tougher side who've already been relegated, they will get the draw or win they need tonight. Absolutely,
yeah. You'd fully expect Eden Derry to win it. They have a nice blend to their team. They have a nice blend of youth. They have a couple of the guys that were on the St Mary's team, won All Ireland there a couple of years ago. And Peter Brady is there. He's there 3 or 4 years now at this stage. I'm not sure exactly, but he's really moulded the team together. I saw them myself in the championship, and I've seen them in the league as well when they played Shamrocks, and they really have something about them this year. I think they're going to be the nearest challengers to Road. I think if Eden Derry and Road were to make the final, I think they would be the best two teams in the county. But yeah, they're a nice team. They seem to have a couple of maybe more, to have a couple of guys in their forwards that we would more assume to be being defenders, if you like. So David Hanlon, Sean Moriarty, they'd be more. We know them as defenders really, and they have a couple of attackers playing in the back line. So they have a nice kind of a system going here where David Hanlon is centre forward. He's attack minded, but at the same time he's well able to drop back, and the wing backs can push forward, like the Stuart Cullen and Richie Dalton and Derek Kelly in the middle of the field. Like, I think apart from the Brady's with Clara, is there a better midfield in the county than Derek Kelly and Richie Dalton. And football, while it's moved on massively in the last number of years, the midfield is still so crucial. And if you come out on top in a midfield battle in a game, you're pretty much on the way to a win. Like,
as you said, like Hanlon can probably drop back into midfield if needed at times in the game as well, and it's not an unnatural position for him. It's remarkable to think Eden Derry, not that long ago, went through that horrible spell where they hadn't won a championship game, and they've just turned it around remarkably. I suppose the school and the underage structures they've had have made a big difference in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, you have to give huge credit to the management team as well. They really seem to have moulded a team, a massive team spirit. They're training hard. They're a very committed bunch. And they're doing all the right things, they're ticking all the right boxes, and they're playing the nice football, they're putting up scores, they're tight in defence. They've like Sean Pender there in the defence, who wasn't with Offaly this year. He's a massive player, massive club player. Like Brian Quinlan is a solid goalkeeper. They just seem to have it all over the field, have a nice balance, and as I said earlier, I think both themselves and Road are the top two in the county this year.
Definitely a championship contender. Gracefield, are they going to be championship contenders? Because they've beaten the champions Tullamore. They've come through quite a few scrapes in the group stages so far. They're getting good competitive games, I suppose, unlike Road at this time of the year. And they're quite well placed at this stage as well to come second in the group. They've got 6 points, puts them a point ahead of Tullamore, 2 points ahead of Bridges, who they've beaten already. And they play Walsh Island. Now, I know this is a local derby and kind of anything could happen. But again, Walsh Island are kind of just playing for pride tonight. You would think that Gracefield will get a result to ensure second place there.
Yeah, they most likely will, but I suppose Walsh Island, they've nothing really to lose tonight. The shackles can come off. They'll go out with the mentality, we're relegated, fair enough, but let's finish off on a high and let's maybe give ourselves something to work towards next year, going into Senior B. But Gracefield, again, talked about midfield pairings, and there's some fascinating midfield pairings in the county. I think we spoke about Alan and Conor McNamee for Road, Richie Dalton and Derek Kelly for Eton Derry, the Brady brothers in Clara, and you've Lowry Allen and Niall Smith in Gracefield. So again, a massive midfield pairing. The Slatterys are still around. They're anchoring the defence. You have a couple of tasty young forwards coming through in Gracefield as well. And I think Gracefield are a team in recent years who blow hot and cold. And you can catch them on a bad day and they look very ordinary. But when they play to their ability, they're a fine team, and I think we saw that against Tullamore when they gave them a pretty handsome beating. When they're on, and up by all likelihood they're going to face Verban in the quarter final, and it's hard to see them slipping up against Verban.
Yeah, well, Rory Allen was saying to us a couple of weeks ago it was important after the Tullamore game that they followed that up with the win, because they feel now, having got a win against one of the big four in the county, that there's no reason they can't do that in the knockout stages. So interesting to see how they do for the rest of the year. At Tullamore, now, they've been interesting in the group stages. Maybe lucky to get a draw against Edenderry. Were beaten against Gracefield, pulled it out of the fire against Tubber, which would have put them in a terrible position if they'd lost last time out. They're going to play St. Bridget's tonight. Could be a very interesting game. Tullamore have looked a little bit vulnerable at times. Can Bridget's get at them and pull an unlikely path into the quarterfinals?
I think they could, yeah. And Tullamore are always interested in the group stage as well, whether it's hurling or football. We've seen that down through the years. Tullamore are pretty much like Gracefield, very hot and cold. When they're cold, they look very ordinary. But when they're good, like we saw in the county final last year, they're very good. But St. Bridget's, it's winner takes all tonight. Whoever wins is going to go into a quarter final. It's as simple as that, and they're going to play Clara. So St. Bridget's at the start of the year, I don't think anyone would have seen St. Bridget's having their own fate in their own hands in the last game, losing Ken Casey to St. Lomans and lost Johnny Brickland to injury. They have two massive players to come out of a small club. David Egan's been struggling with injury as well. He would have been their top forward. But St. Bridget's they'll be rip-roaring for this game this evening, and they won't, for 1 minute, fear Tullamore. They won't worry about Tullamore being county champions. And I could see St. Bridget's winning it. I don't think they will. I think Tullamore have an awful knack of coming right at the right time, and they're going to realise now now is the time. There's no more second chances after tonight. I think that they have. At least Johnny Maloney, Michael Brazel, Shane Dooley, Kevin Williamson, they have all the players, have all the individual spark. They just need to put it together as a team. I think they will tonight, but I wouldn't be one bit shocked if St. Bridget's turned them over either.
On a final note, was the two teams who've been relegated from this group. The unfortunate part was it was over after 4 games for relegation here. Two of the real traditional sides are going down to Senior B for next year. Walsh Island, who people have been predicting their fall for a few years now, and they were just kind of treading water and staying up. And Tubber as well, who've had their fights with relegation in recent times. They're going to be two serious contenders for Senior B next year.
Absolutely. The Senior B competition is shaping up to be even more competitive than the Senior A. You have Ballycumber and Kilcormac Lahi, you have Tubber, and you have Welsh Island, and just this weekend gone you have Shamrocks and Raheen promoted from intermediate. So going some massive battles there. But I suppose it's fair what you say. Welsh Island have been teetering on it for the last couple of years. They've lost a couple of key players to emigration, like William Hall and Ross Connor down through the years. They've been here and they've been away and stuff like that. I think Tubber have been the most unlucky team of the year. They were very unlucky to lose to Gracefield in the opening round. People forget that. They were unlucky to lose to Tullamore. They were 6 points up at one stage against Tullamore. And I was at the St. Bridget's and Tubber game in O'Connor Park a couple of months ago, and Tubber looked really comfortable at half time. They were winning well and they looked really comfortable. Bernard Allen was on fire, and they just fell apart in the second half. So and now to find themselves relegated, it's harsh, but I suppose the results don't lie. For me, Tubber would be the standout team so far in the Senior B next year. I think like Ciara McManus and Bernard Allen, two key players for them. But again tonight they'll be looking to finish off on a high. They've been trained hard under Brian Cosgrove, and Tubber, proud club, and the game is in Clara. It's going to be beside them there. They're going to have their own support, and they're not going to just lie down and just go through the motions. They're going to look to finish off the year with some sort of positive note in it.